when people introduce me, I think, who is that person? That person sounds very interesting. So what I'm going to do today, once we've got the slide up, I'm going to briefly walk you through a few ideas that I've been sitting on and I've been thinking about for a number of years now. So in case we have lost our PowerPoint, we don't need to use my computer. If the slides are on the computer, I can just use this, no problem. Yeah, no problem. I'm just using this so that I can see what I'm doing. Yeah. So we can just follow your computer. The slides will be on. Okay. So I'm wanting to also mention that this paper was prepared as part of a project, a pilot project, and I'm very pleased that my colleague Joko, who is based in Sth Thailand now, originally from Lombok, a linguistic minority. Joko and I are working together, and Joko is one of the first research fellows sent out by the Institute of Religion and Culture. I haven't got the English name here, and I'm afraid I will mispronounce the Indonesian name. And he's based in Sth Thailand at the Centre for Marine, Maritime, Southeast Asian State Studies, and it's wonderful to be working with Joko. And I'm wanting to bring into dialogue some of the ideas that our first paper has presented. Now, when you came earlier today, you may have noticed that there was a small typo it should have been beyond the divide. Just a small typo, and they said it's beyond the divine. Now, my assumption that if I'm speaking at UIN Wali Songo, everyone here is a person of faith. Is that correct? Are you secular here? I'm not secular. Are you secular? I think my assumption is that you are a person of faith. But there is an argument for saying we can go beyond the divine. Some of us, when we see a problem in our country, in our village, in our household, in our village, in our community, in our province, in our island, in our nation, some of us, not all of us, we go for doctrinal medicine, and we seek specifically religious solutions that sometimes are complicated social and social psychological problems. Because we are created by a God who creates beauty and complexity. Almighty Allah did not create us as simple, predictable people. We are not robots that are controlled by a divine remote control. These are dangerous ideas that are not validated in the revelations of the Holy Quran and the previously revealed books. That is my personal opinion. There is an argument for going beyond specifically religious medicine, doctrinal medicines, that says all we need to do is to believe the right thing, because we live in a complicated world. I have lived for 20 years in Thailand, most of that time in Sth Thailand. Since in 2 months' time, it will be 20 years since the eruption of violence in South Thailand. In those 20 years, there have been 21,000 incidents and 7,000 deaths. Now, there have been 30,000 deaths in Palestine since October. That is a lot of funerals. That is a lot of widows. That is a lot of children that are growing up now with just one parent or with no parents. This is the most severe sub-national conflict in ASEAN. And I'm here for a number of reasons. Indonesia has gone, you are the generation after the fall of the Suharto regime. Indonesia has an enormous responsibility to share the wisdom of moving beyond collective trauma, a rejection of violence. You have a responsibility as psychologists in training, as social scientists in training, as historians in training, to share the wisdom that Indonesians can give to southern Philippines, to Myanmar, to South Thailand, where there is conflict. I wanted to make sure that I said that at the beginning of the presentation. So this is the context of the study. The other, have I done the right thing? Am I going the right way? Next one. Okay, we need to go to the next slide. I'm not sure what to do. Here we go, next slide. Why? Maybe I just say next slide. Okay, the wider context of the study. In addition to my background in South Thailand, the context of violence in South Thailand, we live in a world where people want simplicity. All we need to do is we need to do counter-violent extremism. We need to just promote the right sort of religious doctrine. And I am not disparaging the importance of, in some places, having programs that are referred to as countering violent extremism, that some people have called selling de-radicalization. My problem is this, is that sometimes we need to be thinking what has gone on in the past, such as in Palestine, and what is going on in the present. And I'm going to be talking specifically about something that all of us do. If we are people of faith, all of us pray. But there's another thing that all of us do. Next slide, please. So in South Thailand, in order for us to understand conflict, we need to get beyond simplicity. You are not children. You are young adults here to undergo a formation of your head and your heart. Everything happens for more than one reason. Next slide, please. In South Thailand, for example, there are extremist elements. There are historical grievances. There is poverty. Some of you who are here have been my guests in South Thailand. You have seen the poverty there. There's organised crime. There's corruption. There's intergenerational trauma. There's drug use, which is a big problem in South Thailand. There is this thing called mental health. And you'll know all about that because of the faculty that you are studying in. There are the realities of discrimination. There is the reality of the failure of the education system specifically for young men. And I am sure that this is also a problem in many parts of Indonesia. Young men are not completing school. They are not getting into universities. They are unemployed. They are underemployed and vulnerable. But there's this other thing. There's this other thing going on in South Thailand that everyone does. Not everyone is poor. Not everyone is traumatized. Not everyone is corrupt. Not everyone is addicted to drugs, particularly methamphetamines. And what is this thing? This thing is called language. We can't be agnostic about language. Many people are agnostic about God. They don't know if they can believe or not. Some people are agnostic about prayer. Do you pray or not? What is the point? All of us speak. All of us listen. All of us read. Governments have to decide what language are we going to have on our passports? What languages are we going to have on our signs? Now that can be discriminating for linguistic minorities. And this is one of the many reasons why I like working with Joko, because he is from a Sasak background. How many of you come from a household where you speak more than one language? Put your hand up. Where you speak more than one language. Do you understand the question? In your household, do you only speak Bahasa Indonesia or is there another language? Put your hand up.
Lebih daripada satu bahasa di rumah tangga.
You understand now? Good. Okay, good. So many of us have a mother tongue. We have a mother tongue. Language use, language loyalty, language loss, language angst, linguistic nationalism, linguistic discrimination. Do you know that some places where I go and speak, as soon as they hear my accent, some people will say, "Stupid New Zealander." "Oh, I wish he was from England and spoke nicely." We've got nicely, yes, nicely, we say, yeah. So language is a very important driver of language, of conflict. Next slide, please. So, let's have a look very briefly. No, next slide, you've gone too far. That's it. Okay, here we go. Here is some analysis done by someone who analysed the census in 2010. His name is Anders Engvall. He's from Sweden. And he doesn't like me saying that to him. Hello, Anders from Sweden. So these are his analysis of the parts of South Thailand that are the most violent. Now, how can we explain this? Next slide, please. Okay, so has it got something to do with unemployment? Have a look at the graphs. Have a look at the maps. Does it have something to do with unemployment? Yes or no? Yes or no? Does it have anything to do with unemployment? Yes or no? No. Okay, next please. Okay, does the conflict have anything to do with worsening household incomes? Do you have enough income? Is there a correlation between violence and poverty? Not really. Not really. Next, please. Okay, so in the south there are Buddhists living in Malay majority South Thailand. Some of them have been there many generations, hundreds of years. Others are new, trans migrants, like Javanese transmigrants to Sumatra, to Sulawesi, to Irian Jaya, West Sumatra, whatever you call it. Okay, is there a correlation between the presence of Buddhist communities and violence? No. Next, please. These Buddhist communities, next please, these Buddhist communities and many Malays, they speak Thai. Is there a correlation between Thai and the most violent parts of South Thailand? No, is the answer. Next, please. Okay, so mostly Muslim communities are in these parts. The most green are the most densely Muslim. The ones that are white, light green, less Muslims. That's where we have these Buddhists, Buddhist transmigrants. Is there a correlation? No. Next, please. And here we go. So there is more correlation. The most specifically conservative Malay majority provinces that mainly speak Malay at home, they only speak Malay at home, there is a significant correlation between the most thoroughly Malay-speaking communities and the communities where there are the most incidences of bombings, of drive-by shootings, of violence. So there is a significant correlation between language and violence for the very simple reason that, let's just say, Larry, he's a Buddhist. He's not a Buddhist. But let's just say he was a Buddhist. And we both spoke English. We are able to communicate. We are able to argue. He is able to explain and understand, and I am able to listen and change my mind. When we are from different religious backgrounds, but the same language, so many conflict drivers just simply don't exist. For the simple reason, I can greet you, I can communicate with you, I can laugh at the same jokes, I can reason and debate. Now, when we are from a different religious community and we cannot communicate, and this is where I want to mention again about Palestine. This is one of the many reasons why this conflict has historically been so intractable. There is a religious divide, but there is an equally important linguistic divide. Arab-speaking communities and Hebrew-speaking communities. We must remember the importance of language in conflict. Next, please. So these are, again, summaries. The role of the correlation between specifically Malay-speaking households and Muslim households. Next slide, please. This is probably new information for most of you. In South Thailand, there are a number of languages spoken. The most important two languages are a local Malay dialect that we call Patani Malay. So it's very different from Bahasa Indonesia, and it's a bit more similar to Bahasa Malaysia. We say things like make instead of makan, and we say ore instead of orang. So there are many dialects. So there's Patani Malay and there is Thai. Take 30 seconds to look at this table. I'm not a social psychologist, but I know that psychologists, they love quantitative data. I'm more of a qualitative man. But have a look at this graph. It tells us about the language use amongst family members and the language use amongst friends. Both of these languages, Thai and Malay, as well as a mixture, as well as standard Bahasa Malaysia. There are a number of observations that I would like to make. Amongst young women, because young women do better, study further, study better at school, their Thai, their national language, is better than their males. You see the percentages. There are large numbers. Most speak more Patani Malay than Thai. There are some that speak both. So within family members, Thai and Patani Malay, lots more females are using both languages. Amongst friends, we see that Thai is used more between Muslim friends when they meet, and that this is the same for almost all of the languages. And so we have very, very few people, if I'm speaking with family members, with friends, very, very few people speak in Bahasa Malaysia, standard Malay. And Joko can tell you about the joys and the struggles of learning the local dialect, and he is doing really well. So language use amongst friends, and we'll just go to the next slide, please, yeah, and family. Another dimension of language use are differences between provinces. So I'm in Java, and I always enjoy coming to Java. Of course, I don't know Java very well, but I do know that West Sumatra is not, West Java is not East Java, and Central Java is neither East nor West. There are differences. So we can see in this graph that the three southern provinces of Patani Yala and Narathiwat, there are differences in the numbers that speak Patani Malay as their mother tongue. There are also differences between people who live in rural communities and urban communities. This is a big divide. This dynamic is very important. And I'll just go on to the next slide. So, however important the role of languages, there are other factors involved as well, and this is the issue of space. Here is a language map of mainland Southeast Asia, from southern China, Myanmar, down to the border of Malaysia. Next slide, please. And here is the language map of Thailand. You will see some other mother tongues. The green in the south are Malay. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So in Thailand, we have a number of linguistic minorities. There's the Karen on the Myanmar border and the Mon. Then the Northern Khmer, north of Cambodia. So why, if language is so important in conflict, why do we not have violence with the Karen fighting against Bangkok, wanting to join Myanmar, and the Mon joining Myanmar, fighting against Bangkok? Why do we not see this? For the simple reason that in addition to language, there are other factors. If the Wi-Fi is faster in Thailand, why would I go to Myanmar? If the education system is better in Thailand, even though I don't have my mother tongue, why would I want to leave Thailand for that? If the doctors are better, the hospitals are better in Thailand, would I want to leave and go to Myanmar? The same is true for the Northern Khmer. We aren't having our language supported in Thailand. But if I go to Cambodia, education, income, health, internet, everything is lower in Cambodia. Compare that with South Thailand, where Malays in South Thailand are living on the back doorstep of Malaysia, where average income, access to education, and all these things are now a lot better. So, in conclusion, we need to, and I think that I've gone slightly over time, in conclusion, we need to be thinking more about complexity. We need to be thinking beyond however important it is that we reject religious extremism. We need to be thinking about all of the other drivers of conflict in South Thailand as well as elsewhere in the region, in the world, including Palestine. I think that I will thank you for your attention and look forward to responding to your questions. Thank you.